Diamond Trust Bank know how to give mortgages.
Okay.
And this is what they're saying. This thing that keeps people awake at night wondering how to go about, they have a solution. And the solution lies in a conversation that you as an individual can have with them regarding, one, the resources you have at your disposal. That's number one. Two, them telling you what it is that is on offer and how you can go about getting it. And they're saying it doesn't matter whether you are employed, whether you are self-employed, whether you are in the diaspora. No. Loans, 10 years, 25 years, single-digit interest rates, 9%, 9.75. No hidden charges. No penalties if you pay ahead of schedule. My friend, the possibility of getting a loan of up to 105%. If you're employed, 80% of what you require if you're in the diaspora. Look, these are the things that conversations are made of.
It doesn't get better than this.
No, and the only way you have a conversation is if you talk to someone, you communicate with someone. In this modern day and age, the communication age, you can send a message. How? Email. mortgages@dtbafrica.com. Email. Send that email, and then the conversation begins. Or walk yourself to a Diamond Trust branch and have this conversation. At least begin it. That is, of course, if you want to buy a house or own a home.
It's beautiful.
Yes.
And there you go. All right. Stepping into some conversations that we're having this morning, let's take a look at what has been happening over the last couple of days. Yes, we know that when you look at the very furniture of government, that there's certain things that are supposed to be happening. And then sadly, when they don't, what you do is you have a lot of backlash. But things seem to be simmering and things seem to be coming to a boiling status. I mean, how much can you really take? And when you get to the point when you have to really ask that question, that proverbial one, that really how much is too much. And the things that we see on a daily basis, whereby you are saying that people have been traveling around to the tune of 6.6 billion shillings. But then let's look at what really happens when you come out and playing into the politics of the day. In Parliament, we've seen that a number of people have been removed from particular committees because of where their alliance lay with certain individuals, and others, of course, because of where their alliance currently is, have been replaced in those positions. Now, it's called a bloodbath on the government side of Parliament. President William Ruto and opposition leader Raila Odinga have chosen to elevate their homeboys at the expense of dissenters. The loyalist MPs will now chair and sit in lucrative committees with opposers confined as members in nondescript units. This is in Kenya's bold newspaper, The Standard, and that's what's being carried this morning, because we're asking questions and to say, the National Assembly and Senate make up the two houses of Parliament.
Yes.
Right? And we know that there are jobs that they have to do. When we are looking at parliamentarians, we're looking at the roles of representation, we're looking at the laws, at the roles of legislation and the roles of oversight. More often than not, oversight falls within Senate. These are the two. It's a budget-making parliament, and we're talking about laws that are then now put into place, acts, bills, and such. They are representing the people that you go out and you say, look, this is what you guys need. Let me take our needs to Parliament, and then we go to the vote. We say, fine, we've given you the vote. Please go and represent the people of Tamu, for example. Okay?
It's actually
Moroni.
Yes, constituency.
Moroni constituency, but you know we like Tamu.
Tamu, yeah.
But you understand what I'm saying.
I do understand what you're saying with great clarity, yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Now, far be it from the minds of people to think that now that we have given these individuals these jobs to go and do for us in Nairobi, when you go to Parliament thrice a week and represent us, and then you come back to the constituency, far be it that we thought that it was going to be jostling. We didn't think that you were going to sit there and that, seats were up for grabs because of your personal expediency. And then what makes the headlines is not that the bills and the legislation that has been put in place is what is taking center stage, but who was on the right side of rain with the former deputy president, or who is on the right side of rain today with the coalition for all intents and purposes, a new handshake may be in the offing as from today, the 7th of March. And I'm asking the question today, have we lost our way? When we look at what is actually supposed to be done, look, politics must have its place when it comes to how governance and leadership is worked out. politics has a part to play in all of this. But when we see a place where the politics of the day has taken over the position of the role of those individuals, then we have a major problem. Because you know what that means? As CT always says, you're not going to ask questions. You're not going to do investigations. You're not going to hold people to account. You, as the person who may be doing something wrong, is not even going to imagine or expect that somebody's going to hold you accountable. So it looks as though there's a circus. This one is not just passing through town. This one has parked its caravan and it's not going anywhere.
Do you know, today our parliament looks as though it is a choir that is following what the choir master is saying, you know? Like you sing treble. When he says treble, go up, you go up. You know, there is anyone who decides to go outside what the choir master is saying destroys the entire tune. You know what I mean? That is what our parliament is today. Because even if you look at the members who are being removed from these from these committees, let's go back and look at their performance in those committees. You look at someone like Ndindi Nyoro, he's been stellar at the budget committee. You know, today we are replacing him with who? And why are you replacing him? Are you replacing him because he failed at delivering in that committee? Or are you replacing him because apparently he has decided not to be a yes sir kind of person? And what exactly does this yes sir kind of person do to the National Assembly in terms of checking the excesses in government? Today we know the sole purpose of the National Assembly is to legislate. All these members of parliament who are there, how many legislations have they taken to that parliament? Let us start looking at their delivery in these houses and be able to call them out. Because thing is, they might decide to be yes men, but we as the people of the Republic, we will check you out.
What happened to the roles? For example, when the Auditor General, and she actually said this the last couple of days, when the Auditor General comes up with a report, by the way, just for everybody's information, this is not the first report that the Auditor General has come up with, okay? Yeah. Auditor General reports come out quite often. They do. And if there are any queries that have been raised, she does, the Office of the Auditor General does those reports, and the queries then are raised. It becomes part of the support, part of the report. But it is not the job of the Auditor General to then make suggestions or then make recommendations as to what should happen. What she does is says, you know what, I've told you, I have shown you all of this down to the letter. It now remains your job as Parliament to take it up. She doesn't even suggest what taking up is. She doesn't even say, oh, now go and investigate, or start asking questions. No. She just says, this is it. What does that tell you? That it is well understood the role that Parliament has to do some of these things. Now, if you don't take it up, one must then ask, do you then know what it is that you're supposed to be doing? It would appear as though now what we do have here is that folks in concert waiting for the choir master to, conduct the next tune. But for something like this, in my opinion, Parliament has no other business but to find out some of these things that we're being asked in terms of what's going on. No other business. Yeah. If you're going to ask something so critical as what happens to the healthcare of the people of Kenya, and you have a direct role in finding out what has happened, who owns the thing, where did the money go, and you don't, because I can bet you, do you see, CT, do you see really, Parliament, your friends, do you see them? Do you see them picking up this thing from the Auditor General and saying, let's have a look at what the Auditor General is saying? And if, by God, we find that anybody has done anything untoward, heads must roll. Do you see anybody taking that position today from Parliament? I repeat, your friends.
You know, the question that is actually in my mind is, how did Parliament get to be a corpse? How did our... Yes. How did they get there? What happened? Because every once in a while, what maybe constitutes a contrarian view is a whimper, or even a whisper, let's say. Yeah. A whimper is louder than a whisper. The only change that we will see is if one arrives at the understanding of what it is that brought about the situation that we currently have, and whether other members of Parliament who are not in those positions take over, whether they will change. Yeah. our lived experience as Kenyans is that people say one thing when they're out of power and they say a completely different when they're in power, or in close proximity to it. I'm putting it as simply as I can.
Okay.
So with this new handshake, it means there will be people whose party will be in close proximity to power. And because of that, you are asking the question, will we see them behaving the way they behaved when they were not in power? And will they hold the same position that they held before? My goodness gracious me, that is a very simple question to answer. That is, if it was an exam, it's the easiest exam to pass. Are we saying that the self-interest that political leaders have will diminish if this happens? It won't. If anything, it will go up. So why on earth would they tip the apple cart when the manner in which people accrue benefits is a well-trodden path? We see it. Hence, the headline to this paper.
Yeah.
Rewarding, yes, man. See, it's not misplaced. It's apt, it's appropriate, it gets to the heart of the matter. But then, let's pause for a single second. We also see coming into play here something that we actually don't have or haven't had, but the formation of it. We talked about it earlier, off-air. We spoke about it a little bit during the newspaper review. The formation of coalitions in Kenya.
Yeah.
And what it means.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've never had them. So we entered this whole discussion with a mindset of what we've had before.
Yes.
Opposition, okay, and those who are in power, isn't it?
Yes.
And even when we were in the opposition, there was mention of, say, a shadow cabinet. And one would see the movements here and there, but nothing significant. But our idea and our model of a coalition follows the patterns of what we had when we had a single party system. You do not oppose the single party system.
Yes.
You don't say anything contrary.
It's against practice, essentially.
It's absolute. No. Actually, it's suicidal. You see, against practice simply means that there's a difference of opinion.
So if you oppose the order of the day, and no, I'm not saying order in terms of an announcement that has been given, I'm saying order in the way things are done.
The order of things.
If you oppose the order of things, essentially what you do is that you commit political suicide, because either one will be removed from a position, because there it is, 6 individuals on this front page of the Standard, for example, been moved. You then and then what it does, so long as that order remains in power, you essentially will never make your way to the forefront of things again.
You see, but no.
Unless, of course,
you start singing.
You sing a different tune.
That may not necessarily help you, because if you look at the formations of our coalitions, what is it that happens? 2 individuals agree.
Yeah.
Okay. When they agree, they bring their party and their affiliates together.
Yeah.
With this movement, there will be movement even in the alliance that we call UDA. We already there will be movement.
Yes.
We are already seeing movement in other parties. Remember, other parties can find ways of joining the coalition that is in government.
Yes.
There will be movement. Because, again, our lived experience and our practice of politics is that everybody wants to be in close proximity to the government. That is our practice. But let me take it a step further. If I look at the discussion around what it is that Parliament is supposed to do,
Yes.
our practice, again, is Parliament, which is composed of members of Parliament. The members of Parliament do what the political party they belong to wanted them to do. Okay? So the issue of independence, or the independence of the party, or rather of Parliament, is something that is aspirational. If the political parties that are represented have members who, let me rephrase it. The members of political parties who are in Parliament will more or less sit still and wait for the cue from whoever it is that they consider the leader as to the direction they must take. But the overriding principle in all this is benefit.
But CT, this is the thing, and I hear, because that's the practice. But what irks me, the thing that you went to that house to do.
That's where you are.
That gets lost after election.
The thing that actually, no, it doesn't.
Am I talking to somebody? Because I'm not just getting into a preacher.
You would think that you elect that person to go and represent you.
Yes,
really? Who says?
Shock on you.
What? Why? you will give the impression you're representing, most definitely. And there are individuals who very vigorously and very energetically actually represent their. But the problem is statistically, it's such a small number, they're almost inconsequential.
Yeah.
Yes, insignificant.
Today, as all these conversations are happening, the Auditor General's report, I was expecting yesterday in Parliament we'd have a special motion to discuss that report.
Thank you.
I was expecting that yesterday members of Parliament would sit down and say, we need to first of all know who owns this share. We need to know these 104 billion shillings that is being discussed. Where did it come from? Where is it? How much are the owners of this SHA system getting? And why are they getting that money? Why is it that SHA is not working as expected? And why didn't we take this SHA through public participation or a pilot process as should have been done? But what were they discussing yesterday? Oh, we've been seeing these headlines and we need to crack the whip and we need to make all these changes to make sure that, yes, people are close to power.
I was expecting that we would have more people like, in the Senate, like Edwin Sifuna and Okiom Tata, who actually stood up to say, just tell us once and for all if this whole thing is a scam and let us put it to bed, or if we're going to take it to the court of arbitration and see what is supposed to happen. I was expecting that a house that is going to be, and I know Citi's looking at me like, oh, you poor naive child. I was expecting that a house whose duty is tripartite in the sense of representation, legislation, and oversight would have stood up after the Auditor General's report, just like you're saying, and said, excuse me, stop the train. What exactly is going on? Because it's an example of what you're supposed to be doing every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday when you go. It is an example of what you're supposed to be doing when you retreat to your constituency over the weekend and stay there until Monday. It is an example of how you should be saying, let nothing else move unless we sort out this issue. That your sick cannot be treated, that your children cannot be educated, that your infrastructure is on its knees, that you have so many things that are going wrong, that you have corruption left, right, and center, that we come and report things on a daily basis when you come and say, okay, now governors have spent 6.6 billion shillings on joyrides, and it is okay. In what warped, upside down universe is it okay? And then you have the CS for education who is actually complaining. It's a story that's in today, and he says, you know what, guys, we are trying. We are trying to get the last bit of money that we need to send for capitation. I don't know. Is it possible? Is it possible that we are all existing in this same vortex of madness?
Yes, it is possible that we all exist here. You see, why you see me looking as dour as I'm looking is because we keep talking about solutions, but we haven't even identified comprehensively the problem.
Yes.
We talk about aspects of the problem, and half the time when we talk about the problem, we're talking about the symptoms of the problem, not the problem itself. You see, what is it that we're trying to cure? Or what is it that we are seeking to cure? What is it that we are hoping that our members of Parliament will help us cure? What is it? Because if it's knowledge of what is wrong, we do have knowledge of what is wrong.
We do have the knowledge, yes.
If we know what ought to be done, we do know. Now, what is it that appeals to these members of Parliament so much so that they even risk not being re-elected? Because the people you represented know when they're not being represented.
Yeah.
Okay? And as sure as I'm sitting on a chair, come the election, they will speak to you very clearly.
Do you think people realize that it's actually a good thing to do your job and do it well?
Yes.
Benefits
up to a point.
The benefits of this position that you've been given by the people, that they have now, the sovereign have given you and said, okay, fine, on our behalf, you do it. Do you think that there's a realization of actually doing this job and doing it well that gives you much more benefits untold than this horse trading dog and pony show that we are seeing? Who am I aligned to? Who should I then make sure that I'm playing my cards right? Because it's for you and this little circle of merry men here. It has nothing to do with the 50 million people who are looking at you and hoping that you do your job properly. Yeah. That when you get there, you're there for yourself. When will we realize that you actually actually, everybody talks about moving the country forward, fixing this and fixing the other thing, but do we ever actually realize that if you, in that little enclave in which you've been given, if you actually do what it is that you were meant to do, it's the ant, is it not the ant? It's the ant. It's the ant who realizes that me in my constituency of Ndu, your constituency of Aseto, your constituency of CT, you have been given this role of representation, oversight and legislation. You do your part. We come together. We slay the dragon. To me, it makes sense.
Are we as Kenyans, have we as Kenyans considered the possibility of overhauling the way we understand our politics?
You know what,
Thank
City?
you,
You are a
City.
seer.
Thank you, City.
You are a seer. Because that was my next question. And maybe that's the question that we pose to people today.
Yes.
Is it time that Kenyans now, like the ant, came together to slay this elephant and say, you know what? Get out. If you cannot do it, we remove you and bring people who can. Is it time? And maybe that's the question that we ought to ask people this morning.
That is the question, Ndu, because at the end of the day, we will sit and always complain about the people in these houses. But then again, it falls back on us. It is us to make the decision to say, enough is enough, sir. You did not serve us. Go home.
Give somebody else a chance.
Give other people an opportunity to serve us as espoused in the Constitution, who will meet our needs. Because this circle cannot continue anymore. Ndu. It cannot continue, because that means next 5 years again, we are back here talking about the same people doing the same thing that they've been doing all through. We cannot continue like that. The onus is on us as the citizens
There's like a
to
compass.
drain the swamp.
Yeah, to drain the swamp. That's very well put. There, a couple of years ago, there's something that Ndu said that, and she repeated over time.
Habit as a proverb. Continue, City.
Yes, no, what she said is this: when will Kenyans be fed up, sufficiently fed up?
Fed up.
Because if you keep entertaining something that is harming you, then you're not really tired of it.
You like it?
There's something about that you like. So let's ask the question, what is it? Because you like suffering. You enjoy being punished. You enjoy going hungry. You enjoy having a situation where you can't even determine whether the child is going to go to school. Is it what you like? Do you like looking at death in the face every time you think of falling sick? Do you like it? Because if you are not doing something about the person whom you elected to do this work for you, if they're not doing it for you, then what are they doing?
You like it?
Then you clearly like it.
You do.
So stop complaining. Though complaining is nice. You know why? It's a catharsis of sort. You complain, you feel good. And if you can blame a few people just along the way and maybe insult.
Even better.
Yeah, and then if you can find the right words to insult people by, you feel so much better. But for how long?
Yes.
Until the next time? And then your blood pressure keeps rising up. The next thing you know, you'll rupture blood vessel.
Yeah.
And then what happens? That same hospital you're complaining about, who you need to go to.
That's our question for this morning, and that's what we're asking. You're going to call in and talk to us, and we're going to sample your comments on socials this morning. 0719-012-600. Is it time Kenyans took their sovereignty back and started to ask questions and started to move those out who actually are not fulfilling those roles of representation, of legislation, and of oversight? 0719-012-600. That's the number we'll use when we come back from this break, and it's our conversation this Friday. Is it time to get rid of that leadership that doesn't serve you? It's 26 minutes to 9.
Make a date with me this Sunday for an exclusive episode highlighting key moments on our just concluded signature bus tour. As you discover hidden gems ideal for first-time home buyers and investments with solid returns.
It has been a very delightful experience, and we've been able to understand about buying property, what to look out for.
Thank you very much for this wonderful bus tour.
so much more. Only on The Property Show, the trusted voice of the Kenyan real estate sector. As always, there is something for everyone.
We are back at it. Two men, born with the same chances, but shaped by different choices.
This land will be destroyed.
Brace yourself for an epic journey through the pages of the Bible as we bring you the gripping tale of the rich man and Lazarus.
Stop! You imposter! Get out! You false prophet!
Intertwined with other powerful biblical stories, our friendship once unbreakable, now poisoned by betrayal, greed, and desire.
You cannot get married to that woman.
And who are you to tell me what I can and cannot do?
But beyond the veil of life, death stands waiting. One man will suffer in the flames of torment for eternity. The other will find everlasting peace in the arms of Abraham.
Father Abraham.
Who will fall? Who will rise? It's more than a story. It's a revelation. An extravaganza like no other. Only on KTN.
Are happening. They're working.
You know what I find strange too is this thought that I'm about to speak of has been inspired by what you said about what we say regarding, well, we were this and people copied this. Okay. If they've gotten there and we haven't, and they got the wherewithal from us, surely, where did we keep the wherewithal? In which shelf is it? Can we not dust it and pick it up again? When we were having this discussion with the CS for Trade yesterday, talking about industrialization and what have you, these conversations give me a heartache and a headache. And I'm going to explain why. The heartache and the headache is this. We had institutions in this country that were set up specifically to achieve this whatever we were discussing yesterday.
Yes.
Let's start with agriculture. There was Agricultural Finance Corporation.
Yes, AFC.
The purpose was to what? Help farmers who want to do all these farming things. There was Agricultural Development Corporation. You hear of ADC farms.
Yeah.
Where you could go to learn how these things are actually done. There were government projects, for example, where you go and learn them, for example. Okay? You see ADC, huge things.
Yeah.
People like, they were called Kari then, we now call them Kalro, could go there, whether you're talking about livestock, whether you're talking about
seeds,
whatever it is, okay? Then let's come into commerce. Those Kenya Industrial Estates. They took it further. They even had places in the major towns where you could go to. It was their center. The understanding was that they would work with you as a small business person and help you grow. And there was a cap on the sort of finances they could afford you. When you went beyond that and you went to get what we now call industrial, you went to ICDC. Okay?
Yeah.
It was set up specifically. You know what ICDC did? ICDC invested in very many government projects. For instance, in the hospitality industry, there was something called African Tours and Hotels. It was a chain of hotels. There was Kenatco. It was a transport company.
Right.
Okay?
Good old days. Yeah.
There were, by the way, the list is long as to and into the investments that ICDC made. What you've heard of Uchumi?
I have.
That was ICDC. Okay?
Yeah.
So, indeed, when people tell you we're ahead of the curve, we were ahead of the curve. What happened to ICDC? It was cannibalized. It was robbed. People suddenly owned assets of ICDC, owned hotels. That model that built it and that enabled us on that path is the same model that China and Japan use. There is no major corporation, and of course Korea, there is no major corporation that the government doesn't have a little bit in it. None.
The people who supported these things that you're talking about, they were in Kenya.
They were Kenyans.
They're Kenyans.
The people who made sure that those things succeeded,
They were Kenyans.
Kenyans.
okay,
They were Kenyans.
okay. What happened?
Now, I came to the end, as in cannibalized, and suddenly you would find properties that you knew were owned by ICD. Suddenly individuals owned them. And the interesting thing was some of these individuals, if you look at the details, they had been CEOs of ICDC. So you ask, okay, we see. And all that went up in smoke. But everything that was needed to take us to what economically we refer to the takeoff stage, we had, and we had been working on it. The people who were benchmarking knew what they were benchmarking. It was working, you could see.
Yeah.
The infrastructure that we now call the service industry, the tourism industry, what did we do? We took it further. The Swiss even built us a
College.
A college.
Yes.
People from this continent and elsewhere would come to train here. Okay? This list is it's a walk along memory lane, but it goes on and on and on and on. This newness of things that we're talking about, there is nothing new under the sun.
Yeah.
These things exist, not existed, exist. The thinking exists. The will to make the changes doesn't.
You see, City, when you talk about ICDC, I give you a personal example. My old man worked in a certain institution that was private, but ICDC had a stake in it. That means government had a stake in it.
Right.
You know? And individuals who sat in the boards of ICDC collapsed. But what did they do? They came up with a consortium that ended up buying this institution that was part of ICDC.
Individuals.
You know,
Okay.
individuals.
But they first collapsed ICDC.
Yes, they collapsed ICDC first. And you see this specific firm that I'm talking about had tentacles, Eldoret, that would serve entire Rift Valley all the way to Kisii. We're talking about 5-6 companies that was under ICDC that is now collapsed. But individuals are taking these companies. Now, when we sit today and talk about the infrastructure that was a model for many other countries, it does exist. But do we have the will, political will, to ensure that these structures are in place and we are moving forward?
On to get it done. Let's start taking some of your calls that are coming in this morning, and we're finding out from okay, so are we at the point where we're saying, you know what, guys, if this thing is not working, those that you've given your sovereignty to be able to sort it out for you, is it time you ask them to step down and get in others? We're speaking to Eddie this morning. Hello, Eddie, good morning. Hello?
Hello,
Eddie, good morning.
how are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you doing?
Thank you very much. I'm Engineer Eddie Banda. I'm calling from Kilifi County.
Yes. What are your thoughts on what we're speaking about this morning, Eddie?
First of all, I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate you people for the good work you are doing in sanctifying the government.
Asante sana.
Sasa kile naweza kuambia, mnafanya kazi nzuri, because the Kenyans, the entire Kenyans are the people who spoiled everything.
Yes.
For the future of this country. You look at a situation whereby you can acquire these assets and he leaves it there. No any development is being done. I've seen what is affecting the country, and you are talking it well, that Kenyans have lost direction. We have been blessed with a good country, the entire population. But at the end of the day, we don't have leaders, because this is very bad. That's why when we are seeing the Americans are cutting the aid, it is a wake-up call to the Africans so that they can manage their resources well. Let's take, for example, now they are taking people to go to slavery work in Asia, Arabuni. We have been that recently. I saw people demonstrating in Narok about their Ganos. So you get two people are importing what we call Ganos here, and they wanaweka shehena ya sukari nini. They branded to Mias. How? Why are they doing that? And even for their gain, this could create employment in the rural areas whereby these young people could become farmers and be paid. And then
So, Eddie, what do you think would actually need to happen? Because we can see where things should be. What do you think needs to happen today with your voice as a Kenyan?
What is happening, madam, it has become a trend at the end of the day, because once corruption is still there, it's not easy for something to be done. Because you know how Kenyans are. Let's take for example.
I want to hear from you quickly so that we can hear from other people as well, Eddie, this morning, is that, we're asking the question this morning, is it time that those that we've given the role to do the job that can't do the job, then give it up for somebody else to try?
Anyway, are you getting me, madam? In short, it is upon us. We need to change this country through a revolution, especially to the way the young Gen Zs did it, so that people could. But at the end of the day, if we still have these people, we are wondering, because some of them, they are in a position, and the way they are, I don't know what to call friends. Ukiangalia hali yao ya masomo, integrity is very questionable.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let's take some more calls this morning. Tuned in from Changamwe is Bernard. Hello, Bernard. Good morning.
Good morning, madam. How are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you this morning?
We are fine. I'm calling from Mombasa, Changamwe, and very, very happy about your topic today. What you are bringing across is very important, and I would wish that those people who go to this.
Thank you very much. But what I'm going to ask you, Bernard, to do is please turn down the volume on your radio so that we can get you clearly. All right, in the meantime, let's take another call this morning. Tuned in from Machakos. Chris, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Very well today. How are you?
Mimi nimekasirika sana.
Kwa nini?
I am over here listening to some few radio stations, kuna entertainment, but we are here discussing very serious and boring things.
Okay.
Yes. Unajua, Wakenya, we don't really care about vitu zingine, we only care about money in our pockets. Kama naweza lipa pesa ya hospitali, why do I care about the government hospital? If I can drive that high rider that doesn't care about the state of the road, why do I care about what the government is doing? Do you get my point?
I get your point.
Yeah. If I can afford to go to Aga Khan Hospital, why should I care about anything else? If I can afford to take my child to the private school that doesn't need capitation, why should I care? See, Kenyans only care about money. We don't care about our future. If I have money in my pocket, then I'm okay.
And can that change?
It's going to take a miracle. Ask City. He has been around for a while. He's going to tell you that it's going to take a miracle to change that mentality from the Kenyan people.
We have to say thank you.
We don't feel like we deserve the good things. We only deserve the things that we can afford. That's it. That's where we are right now as a country.
I hear you on that, Chris. I hear you. And if anything, even if it's not, sharing a solution, that sentiment speaks volumes. Thanks for sharing your thoughts.
I was being sarcastic, by the way.
I get you completely, and that's why I said it speaks volumes.
Okay, thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you very much, Chris. Let's hear also from Blackwater in Mombasa. Blackwater, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. How you guys doing today?
Very well. How have you been?
I've been good. I see our guy moved up to a different station, but it's all good. Progress is always good.
We keep it moving, indeed. What are your thoughts this morning?
Now, my thoughts today, right? I was having a conversation with a very close friend of mine, right? And it was basically became an argument in one way or the other because he told me, listen, one thing we have to accept, Kenya is a tribal country. And when we say democracy, there's no one form of democracy. So what's happening in Kenya is our form of democracy, whereby me and you are now working, I kick you out, I bring somebody else in, let's sit down and work. That's our form of democracy, and we have to accept it at some point, because otherwise, this is what's going to be. Because like the other man said, CT has been there for how many years? He's a young old man, and he's seen the same thing. So we have our own form of democracy, and we have to accept it and see how we can work using this democracy.
I hear you on that, Blackwater, and that is it's a sentiment that has to push. All right. Thanks for sharing your thoughts this morning. Let's take some other calls. Good morning, Wanjiro.
Hello.
Hello, Wanjiro. Good morning.
Good morning.
Share your thoughts with us this morning.
My sentiment is the generation that built it, that built the ICDC, is the generation that broke it. Because these are the same people that went and the Tomboya lift, they came back with the ideas, they built the system, but they also saw their cronies eating. And if they're not the generation that broke it in the 70s and 80s, it is the children they raised that broke it. We are corrupt to our core. And we have to fix corruption within ourselves before we expect better of the leaders, because we are electing leaders from the same people that are corrupt. Those are my sentiments.
Well,
we need to fix ourselves.
Indeed, heavy ones, but definitely ones worth hearing. Thanks so much for your call this morning, Wanjiro. Asante sana. Let's also hear from Patrick, who's calling in from Nairobi as well. Patrick, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, talk to us about what you feel. Well, we're very well this morning. Well, to a certain extent, I guess. But also, tell us what you think about what we're discussing this morning.
Yeah, I would like to say that politicians are a reflection of society. They don't come from a bubble. So our value systems, their morality, is a reflection of us. And if we go back and look at how we founded our nation, the founding fathers of this nation, what value systems did they put in place? Was it impunity that they founded the country on? Was it the plunder of land? Is that the foundation that they created for us? And when we talk about a change in leadership, whoever we choose will come from this very same society. We are corrupt to the core, we are self-centered, but this is a culture that was inculcated from the founding fathers. So what do we need? We need a Traore moment. Someone with a Pan-Africanist vision, real love for the country, real patriotism. They bundle that word patriotism, but patriotism is love for country, putting country first, and having a vision for the country or the nation that you want to build, not building yourself and how much wealth you can amass. But we have made also politics very lucrative in terms of gains, financial gain. Look at a country like China. Politics will invite people who really have love for country because it's not lucrative. But where are we?
It starts with us. It starts with us.
People who we put in. Yes, it starts with us. These politicians, these I'm sorry to use this word, but these mediocre politicians within Parliament, we put them there. We put them there, and now we're complaining. So we need a paradigm shift. And first, discuss what are the values that we want to identify us as Kenyans with. There has to be a value system, just the same way China changed its trajectory within 20 years because they had to have a plan of what country they want, what kind of a citizen they want. And they did it. China was a third world country.
Indeed, Patrick. I want to get sentiments from other people this morning, but it's very clear what we're saying. And thanks for sharing your thoughts with us this morning, Asante.
Thank you so much and do great work.
Asante sana. Also, let's hear from Wanjohi. Wanjohi, good morning. Tuning from Mombasa.
Good morning, Joe and company.
Good morning.
Now, I don't know. There is nothing we can say now because I think we have sunk so deep in the sewage of everything. Kenya is not the Kenya we know anymore. The period of 60 years and Moi's rule of 23 years, that was the worst part of this country. Now we have sunk even beyond that by products of Moi, because the current president is a product of Moi. the YK, I think it was YK 27 or 92, whatever it was. So I think Kenyans need to take the initiative themselves. Just as the city said, we have to be ants and we have to take the elephant out. Kenya cannot continue like this. That somebody after promising people heaven has taken people to hell and still has the audacity to stand in front of people. You give 20 million shillings, whereas Kenyans don't even have a shilling to put on the table. Teachers, schools are closing because of capitation. Nurses, you name it. There's a whole host of so many things. I saw somebody on one of the stations saying that there was 250 promises that were made. Ishungwa, when he was in Al Jazeera, he said only 5% has been covered. And I don't think even it's 5% because some of the things are being shoveled into our throat because they have special interest there. Sure, they have special interest in it. Building affordable. That was not, there are priorities too.
Definitely, I hear you. I mean, yeah, the list can go on and on, isn't it, Wanjohi? It absolutely can. I mean, just hearing what it is that, enough is enough. I'm just going to take some more calls this morning, but I want to thank you for sharing your sentiment with us this morning. Thank you so much, Wanjohi. Asante Sana, means a lot to hear that. Let's also hear from Himat this morning. Good morning, Himat.
Good morning. Kenya got independence when Singapore got its independence. And you can see where Singapore is and where we are. Our issue is only one, corruption. That's it, only corruption. If corruption is taken care of, I think we'll be far, far ahead of so many other countries. So this is my take. Corruption should stop, and those people who are being caught and so on, nothing has been done to them. They're not taken to the court, no actions are taken, and the issue is just forgotten and so on. So if corruption stops in this country, oh my God, we'll go miles and miles. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your sentiments, Himat. I mean, very clear in terms of what you think. Let's take a last call for this hour from Mark in Kisumu. Mark, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Yes, Mark?
Yes, I'm calling from Kisumu.
Okay. I can't hear you very well. Maybe you need to move a little bit, Mark, so we can get you clearly. Okay, unfortunately, we can't get Mark on a clear line. But it's interesting, guys, isn't it, that the sentiment across board is the same. Can so many people be sensational, or can so many people be wrong?
No, they cannot. But you see, this is where now the discussion about leadership comes in. Because at times, the best we can do is vent. Talk about our suffering, our pain. Talk about what we see as going wrong. Talk about what we'd like to see. But then leadership comes in to fill in the gap. And leadership is not about promises. No. A promise should be a map telling you where it is that you're going. But the journey must start and one must see the walking. Now, it's not that one doesn't see the walking. One has difficulties imagining when it will come to an end. You know why?
Yeah.
When we have a history of very many things that were supposed to have been done or continued with, which haven't, and yet we begin by starting new things, then the trajectory is going to be, we are a nation where we have very many unfinished projects.
Yes.
And the biggest unfinished project is ourselves. Because we need to sort ourselves out so that our minds are clear about what we want and how we can get it. Now, the men and women who came up with this new constitution did us the biggest favor anybody can do for you for the next 100 years.
Indeed.
They gave you the tool with which you can actually make sure that your life is what it ought to be.
Yes, and as we talk about this conversation and the problems that do exist, the solution lies with us. The decisions we make will definitely come to affect us later. And even here if we just read what Kenyans are saying on YouTube, Kenyans are tired. They don't like suffering. They feel powerless under the regime. That is Beethoven. Leo, the political class rest easy knowing tribe and bribe will always come section of society to put them in power and ensure they stay in power to slay the dragon. A massive civic education is needed. Pretty much what Kenyans are saying. The swamp has to be drained.
It has to be drained. And these are things we're talking about. In order for us to get the solution, that's where we need to be going. We'll continue with more of these conversations as we get through them. Good morning. It's 9 a.m.